Summer Inman was born on October 19, 1985, in Logan, Ohio, a small and quiet town where life flowed at a measured pace and neighbors knew each other by sight. She was the youngest of 3 children in her family and grew up surrounded by love and care. Her parents described her as a kind, determined, and caring girl who always helped the younger ones and dreamed of a large, close-knit family. Summer grew up in an atmosphere of traditional values and believed that family was the most important thing to cherish. From an early age, she showed an interest in learning and creativity. At school, she did volunteer work, attended clubs, and participated in school events. Her teachers recalled that Summer always stood out for her kindness and willingness to help others. After school, she decided to stay in her native Logan, as she loved her hometown and dreamed of building her life here. In 2004, Summer met William Inman II, who became the love of her life. They were introduced by mutual friends at a town festival. William was a few years older than her, and immediately caught her attention with his charm, confidence, and caring personality. He was born and raised in the same town and worked in his father's family business, running a small business. William seemed like a reliable and confident man who knew what he wanted out of life. Their relationship developed rapidly. William, charmed by the vivacious Summer, quickly realized that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. Summer, for her part, was sure she had found her man. Just a year after meeting, they were married in a cozy ceremony among family and friends. Their wedding was one of the highlights of the year for Logan residents. After the wedding, the couple settled in a small cozy house on the outskirts of the city. Summer busied herself with creating home comforts, while William continued to work in the family business, trying to provide stability for his young family. Both were happy and their lives seemed perfect. Friends and acquaintances said they were a wonderful couple, full of love and understanding. Soon Summer and William had their first child, a boy who was named after his grandfather. The young couple enjoyed the happiness of parenthood, and Summer was happy to take care of the baby, devoting herself to the family. She was a wonderful mother, who treated every moment of her son's life with awe. A year later, the family had a second child, a girl. This became another joyful event in their lives. William was proud of his family and often told friends that Summer was the best mother and wife he could have wished for. A third child, another girl, was born a few years later and the family became complete. The couple was active in the local community. William helped organize town events and Summer was involved in charity work. She was often seen with her children at local festivals or at church, where the family were regular attendees. To Logan residents, they were an example of how a family could remain close-knit and happy. Family weekends were a must-do tradition. They often had picnics outdoors, took walks in local parks, or traveled to the farm where the children could play with the animals. William tried to make time for his family despite his busy schedule. According to their loved ones, he always paid attention to each of his children, helping them with their studies or playing soccer with them. Summer and William strived to make every day special. They exchanged romantic gestures. He would bring her flowers for no occasion, and she would cook his favorite meals. Their home was filled with laughter and warmth, and nothing seemed to dampen their happiness. Summer, who had dreamed of a large family since childhood, enjoyed every moment of her role as wife and mother. She was caring, attentive, and always put her children's interests first. Her days were filled with chores around the house, playing with her children, and supporting her husband. In 2011, life seemed stable and happy for the Inman family. William was making plans to expand his business, and Summer was thinking about going back to school and getting her degree in the future. They dreamed of traveling, fixing up the house, and making plans for their children's future. This couple, who at first glance lived a perfect life, became an example to many in their community. Their children grew up in an atmosphere of love and care, and friends and family always said that Summer and William were made for each other. March 22, 2011 began as a normal day for Summer Inman. The morning passed with the usual worries as she took her children to school and went to her job at a local bank in Logan, Ohio. By evening, Summer finished her shift at the bank and headed home, as she did every day. But she never made it to her family. It was at this point that the chain of events that would lead to her tragic death began. On the evening of March 22nd, Logan police received their first disturbing call. A witness reported seeing a woman being forcibly placed into a white car outside a bank. He described 2 masked men who literally dragged her into the car. It happened so quickly that no passersby had time to intervene. The caller was shocked by what was happening, but managed to give police a description of the car. which was the first lead in the investigation. A few minutes later, a second call came in from another witness. The woman said she saw the white car make a sharp turn onto a side street, as if trying to get away from a possible pursuit. She too noted that there were several people in the car, including a woman who appeared to be trying to escape. Police responded immediately and patrol crews were dispatched to the area in question. A search operation was launched to locate the vehicle, but at that point it had already managed to get out of sight. It was around this time that Summer's family began to worry. Her parents couldn't reach her by phone, and the children left in the care of their grandmother began asking why it was taking so long for their mom to return. Summer's parents contacted the police to report that she was not answering her cell phone, which was completely uncharacteristic of her. When word got out about the kidnapping outside the bank, these events began to add up to an ominous picture. The family realized that Summer may have been the victim of a crime and contacted local authorities for help. Police immediately began searching for the white car, interviewing witnesses and reviewing SECT footage. One of the cameras near the scene of the kidnapping captured a car that matched the description. The video showed the car speeding away from the parking lot, but unfortunately the license plates were blurred, making identification difficult. Police also began interviewing bank employees to learn more about who Summer had been socializing with in the final hours before the kidnapping. Colleagues claimed they had not noticed anything suspicious. Summer had spent her workday quietly, with no conflicts or strange calls. News of Summer's kidnapping spread quickly through the town. Logan, a quiet and peaceful place where such crimes were rare, was in shock. Neighbors and family friends gathered to support her parents and offer help in the search. Volunteers began putting up flyers with Summer's picture and a description of the car in which she had been taken. With each passing hour, the tension grew. People could not understand who could be behind such a daring crime and hoped that the police would find Summer alive and unharmed. As time passed, however, no trace of the kidnappers could be found. That evening, the police issued a county-wide manhunt for the white car. Highway patrols were ready to apprehend any car matching the description. But night fell, and neither the car nor Summer herself were ever found. The family continued to hope for the best, but the anxiety grew stronger. What began as a normal day had turned into a nightmare that would soon shake the entire town with its brutality. On the morning of March 23rd, detectives focused on locating a white car that had been captured by CAFT cameras and described by witnesses. Police patrols surveyed all nearby roads and parking lots where the suspects may have hidden the car. Residential neighborhoods, abandoned buildings, and wooded areas in the area were checked, but the car remained elusive. Officers enlisted the help of the State Highway Patrol and neighboring counties by circulating an APB with a description of the car. All surveillance posts and roadblocks on major highways were ordered to check every white car matching the description. However, despite the massive operation, no trace of the suspects could be found. Realizing that it would be difficult to manually search the entire area, the police began to use additional resources. Helicopters were deployed for aerial reconnaissance. They searched fields, forests, and abandoned areas within a 50-mile radius of Logan. However, the dense vegetation and vast terrain made the job much more difficult. At the same time, detectives requested access to surveillance footage from surveillance cameras located along major highways and gas stations. They were looking for a vehicle that may have been traveling toward neighboring cities or states. But so far, analyzing the footage hasn't yielded any new leads. In parallel with the search for the vehicle, police continued to interview witnesses who could provide more information about the kidnapping. New eyewitnesses were found who had seen the suspect car in different parts of the city on the evening of the abduction. One of them reported that the car was spotted in an industrial zone area near the central highway. This information prompted police to check the area, but no trace could be found there either. Since the search for the car was inconclusive, detectives decided to focus on investigating Summer's surroundings. They began gathering more information about her family life, relationship with her husband and friends. The main focus was on Summer's ex-husband, William Inman II, and his parents who, according to Summer's relatives, had shown displeasure with her decision to divorce. Police also requested Summer's phone records to trace her recent calls. They hoped this would help establish who she was in contact with on the day of her abduction. At the same time, a review of her bank accounts was launched to look for any suspicious transactions that could provide new information. By noon on March 23rd, nearly 18 hours after the abduction, the search for the car was still fruitless. Police officers began to fear that the kidnappers might have taken Summer far out of the county, making the operation much more difficult. However, Detectives did not give up hope and continued to search for leads, realizing that every minute counts. A few days after Summer Inman's abduction, police received an important lead that took the investigation in a new direction. A witness who lived near an industrial zone on the outskirts of Logan contacted the station to file a report. He recalled seeing a white car matching the description parked near an old warehouse. According to the man, the car was there on the evening of March 23rd, about an hour after the kidnapping. It remained at the location for several hours and then disappeared. This information became key information for police. Immediately after receiving the evidence, detectives sent a team of operatives to the warehouse. The area was quiet and sparsely populated, making it an ideal place to hide the crime. The search of the area began with a survey of the abandoned building and surrounding properties. There were no fresh tire tracks around, indicating that the vehicle probably never returned to the site again. Detectives' attention was drawn to a septic tank that was located a few feet from the entrance to the warehouse. The lid of the tank was ajar, and nearby on the ground were visible footprints that looked like they had recently been left behind. These details looked suspicious, and the police decided to carry out a detailed examination.
The FBI says investigators located a body just outside Hocking County, where Summer Inman is from.
When the operatives opened the lid of the tank, they immediately realized they had stumbled upon something horrific. At the bottom of the tank lay the body of a woman. Calling forensic experts to the spot, the police began the procedure of removing the remains. Forensic experts confirmed that the body belonged to Summer Inman. Summer was wearing the same clothes as the day she was abducted. She had a plastic tie around her neck, which was the cause of death. No signs of struggle were found on her body, indicating that the murder was carefully planned and executed. It appears that the perpetrators deliberately concealed the body in such a way as to make it difficult to find. After the discovery of the body, the crime scene was cordoned off. Forensic investigators began a thorough search of the area, hoping to find evidence that could point to the identity of the killers. Particles of dirt left by shoes were found on and around the tank lid, as well as small tire tracks that could belong to a white car. Inside the tank, in addition to the body, fabric fibers were found, which later became an important clue in the investigation. After the discovery of Summer Inman's body in the septic tank, the police immediately went to her parents to tell them the tragic news. This moment was particularly difficult for the Inman family, who had hoped to the last minute that Summer would be found alive. Her parents, James and Deborah Inman, took the news with deep grief, but were willing to help the police with their investigation. After the parents learned of their daughter's death, detectives decided to use the opportunity to talk to them about Summer and learn more about her life in recent months. James and Deborah were willing to answer any questions to help solve the case. When the detectives asked if there was anything unusual or disturbing about Summer's life, the girl's mother, Deborah, talked about her daughter's complicated relationship with her ex-husband, William Inman. According to her mother, Summer had been complaining about her husband long before the tragedy. William, from the beginning of the marriage, displayed an authoritarian and controlling nature. He did not allow Summer to make important decisions on her own, and demanded that she always follow his instructions. Over time, his behavior became increasingly harsh, and Summer felt overwhelmed in the relationship. Deborah recalled that her daughter repeatedly talked about feeling trapped. Summer recounted more than once that her husband threatened her and tried to limit her contact with friends and family. According to her mother, Summer once admitted that she feared for her safety but was hesitant to do anything about it for the children for a long time. The situation reached a critical point in 2010 when Summer finally decided to file for divorce. She realized that this decision could lead to serious consequences, but saw it as the only way out of the situation. The divorce was accompanied by constant conflicts, especially over child custody disputes. William was adamantly opposed to the fact that the children remained with their mother, and more than once threatened her if she tried to take them away. The mother told police that Summer often spoke of her fear of her ex-husband. She complained that William not only refused to acknowledge the divorce, but also constantly followed her. According to Deborah, her daughter was sure she was being watched and said she felt like she was being watched. When detectives asked about William's behavior after the divorce, Summer's parents confirmed that he became even more aggressive. Deborah recalled that William repeatedly showed up at her daughter's house, making a scene and demanding that she give up her plans for independence. He tried to pressure Summer by threatening legal action and even physical violence. Deborah also revealed that in the last months before her disappearance, Summer complained of strange calls and threatening text messages that she associated with William. However, she did not contact the police, believing that doing so would only make matters worse. This information gave the police their first serious reason to suspect William Inman, I of involvement in the kidnapping and murder. His hostile behavior, threats, and attempts to control Summer after the divorce were becoming key elements in the theory of his involvement. Detectives began looking into his background, connections, and possible motives. In addition, William's parents, William Inman and Sandra Inman, came to the attention of the investigation. Police officers speculated that they may have supported their son in his conflict with Summer and even assisted him in his plans. After suspicion of involvement in Summer Inman's murder fell on her ex-husband, William Inman and his parents, police began a series of intense interrogations. Detectives realized that the Inman family was closely connected, and any information gleaned from the interrogations could shed light on their role in the crime. William Inman was the first person called in for questioning. From the beginning, he denied any involvement in the disappearance and murder of his ex-wife. He stated that he had not seen Summer on the day of her abduction and had had no contact with her since their divorce. However, his answers were full of contradictions. Detectives noticed that William avoided direct questions about his whereabouts on the night of the abduction. His behavior became suspicious when he began to confuse his statements. For example, he first stated that he was at home and then added that he had stopped by the store but was unable to provide confirmation of this. Investigators noticed that his nerves began to fray when the conversation turned to the location where Summer's body was found. William II's father, William Inman also denied any involvement in the crime. He claimed that he knew nothing about what happened to Summer and was not involved in her kidnapping. However, detectives noticed his nervousness when the conversation touched on the details of their family conflicts. William Inman claimed that he was at home with his wife, Sandra Inman, on the night of the kidnapping. However, the police had no evidence to support his alibi. Moreover, his behavior indicated that he was withholding important information. A key moment in the investigation was the interrogation of Sandra Inman, the mother of William Inman Unlike her husband and son, she appeared depressed and nervous. Her answers were confused, and detectives realized that she could be the weak link in this family chain. Sandra initially followed the family's general line of defense, denying any involvement. However, after police presented her with evidence, including witness statements and surveillance footage, she began to break under pressure. In particular, investigators said they had information about a white car she used frequently, which matched the description of the car seen at the scene of the kidnapping. After several hours of questioning, Sandra Inman confessed to her involvement in Summer's abduction. She testified that her role was limited to driving the vehicle used to capture and transport the victim. Sandra claimed that she was unaware of the plans to kill Summer and believed that the purpose was only to punish her for her divorce and child custody battle. According to Sandra, she did not participate in the kidnapping and murder itself. She stated that she was forced to help and that she was afraid to confront her husband and son for fear of their anger. Her testimony was the first significant breakthrough in the case. After her confession, Sandra agreed to cooperate with the police. She pointed out the location where Summer's body had been left, which corroborated the words of a witness who had seen a car near the old warehouse. This confession helped the police not only reconstruct the chronology of events, but also strengthen the case against her husband and son. Sandra also revealed that William Inman and his father had been plotting the kidnapping for weeks. She had heard them discuss the possibility of making Summer suffer, but she did not believe that they were actually willing to kill her. Sandra explained that she could not refuse to participate for fear of being punished or abused by her husband. Sandra's words became a key part of the prosecution's case. Her testimony not only confirmed her husband and son's participation, but also helped the police gather additional evidence. Specifically, she indicated during her interrogation that a plastic zip tie was used to strangle Summer, which was consistent with the forensic evidence.
To come together as a group and continue to draw strength from each other and also to encourage Summer's parents.
Her confession led to formal charges against William Inman William Inman and Sandra Inman herself. Despite her cooperation, Sandra was also arrested because her role in the crime could not be ignored. The trial of William Inman his father William Inman and mother Sandra Inman began in 2012, a year after the tragic death of Summer Inman. The trial attracted not only local but also national press attention. The case has come to symbolize the extreme degree of family conflict that can lead to irreparable consequences.
Next 6 months, Summer Inman's estranged husband and his parents will be tried separately in this courthouse, forcing the community to face more pain.
William Inman I became a central figure in the trial. He was accused of planning the kidnapping, organizing the murder, and directly participating in the crime. Evidence included testimony from Sandra Inman, who claimed her son repeatedly spoke of needing to punish Summer for her attempts to distance him from his children. Prosecutors also pointed out that William Inman I personally strangled Summer with a plastic coupler. His defense argued that he did not intend to kill his ex-wife, but only wanted to force her to abandon the divorce and keep the family together. However, these arguments were refuted by physical evidence and witness testimony. After weeks of deliberation, a jury found William Inman I guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without parole. The role of William Inman I, William II's father, was also scrutinized during the trial. Prosecutors said he was actively involved in planning the kidnapping and was an accessory to the crime. According to Sandra Inman, he supported his son every step of the way, including preparing the car and choosing a place to hide the body. The defense of William Inman I tried to present him as a man who was drawn into the situation because of pressure from his son. However, the court did not accept these arguments given the extent of his involvement in the crime. The jury found him guilty of first-degree murder, and he was also sentenced to life in prison without parole. Sandra Inman was the only defendant who agreed to cooperate with the investigation. Her lawyers presented her as a victim of circumstances who acted under pressure from her husband and son. Sandra pleaded guilty to participating in the kidnapping but insisted she did not know of the plans to kill Summer. Prosecutors pointed out that her role in the crime, although limited to driving, was critical. Without her assistance, the kidnapping could not have taken place. However, Sandra's cooperation with the police and her confession played a key role in reducing her sentence. The court found her guilty of complicity in the kidnapping and obstruction of justice. She was sentenced to 15 years in prison with parole.